Hey guys, so I just got out of class and I want to start a new segment for my channel called What I Learned Today, mainly because I feel like, well, I'm in school. And I feel like when you are trying to learn something, it's best to try and teach it back to somebody else, because then you can kind of get a better grasp on it. And I feel like you don't really know something until you can explain it easily to somebody else. And so I kind of want to be able to go over what I've learned and relay it to you guys, and then hopefully in the process I will gain greater understanding of it, and then maybe you guys will learn something also. So before I start this, I also would like to preface it with the fact that, like, I'm a student, and so if I say something that's like not 100% right or accurate, like, be nice please, because I'm just trying to learn this stuff and understand it too. And so me sharing it with you guys, I'm not saying that I'm an expert in any of this stuff. I just kind of want to gain greater understanding of it myself and talk about it and learn about it. And so today, like, for one, I'm going to start with just not even something that was like necessarily learned in class, but more something that I picked up on, like, on my own. And that is, like, and I've kind of already known this, but it's like really getting cemented in my mind now. And that is doing things that kind of make you uncomfortable, and how you have to be willing to do these things that make you uncomfortable so that you can grow and become better. Like, I'm taking this cultural anthropology class, and there's going to be group projects and a presentation, and so I'm going to have to talk in front of people, and I'm going to have to, like, socialize with people. And most people know that, like, trying to do group projects is not always fun or easy. And I personally don't like talking in front of people. That's one of the reasons that I continue to do these videos, because I feel like it makes me better at that, and makes me better at, like, presenting information, and it'll make it easier to talk about these things in front of a group of people if I do this first, just kind of talking to you guys through my camera, you know? And so at first, my first instinct when she was explaining everything that we're going to be doing in the class, like, I got really nervous, and I was just like, oh, maybe I don't really want to do this, you know? Like, maybe I should drop the class and do something else. But then I was like, no, like, I knew that I was in the right place. I really did. And so I was, like, thinking, like, no, I mean, maybe I should stick this out a little bit and do this, because it's gonna make me better. And it's really not like that much of a challenge. It's a small challenge in the direction that I would like to become better in. And so there was something that was just kind of telling me, like, no, like, yes, this is going to be uncomfortable, but you need to stay here and you need to do it, because it's going to make you better, and it's going to make you stronger, and it's going to make you more comfortable in these areas. And so I'm going to stick out the class. I really like the teacher. I really like the people that are in the class. I think it's a really interesting topic, and I'm excited to learn about it. And so I need to do these things. And I do want to be better at talking in front of people and presenting things, and so the only way to get better at it is to practice it and to do it over and over again. And so this is a great learning environment to really do this in. And usually I've found that within classes people are generally pretty accepting, because we're all a little bit nervous to do this stuff, you know? And so if someone messes up or doesn't do as good of a job as they wanted to, or that they thought they would, I feel like it's a much more accepting environment to really kind of do that and mess up and experiment and just learn, really. And so I'm going to keep the class, but I just wanted to relay that reflection that I had today. Sometimes you just have to do things that are kind of uncomfortable to get better at them and to make them more comfortable. So as far as my actual class, we talked a lot about culture. Obviously, it's cultural anthropology, and some of these topics I'd actually already discussed in previous classes, because I took a linguistic anthropology class, which was pretty challenging itself, but very interesting. And so a lot of this stuff I've already learned and talked about, but it was really cool to, like, review it and go over it again. And I feel like it kind of stuck better in my brain this time, because it's the second time I'm hearing it. And so we were talking all about, like, culture, and how there are certain norms and things that we learn in each of our own cultures, and how we think these things are kind of like biological and innate, and things that they're just who we are, or that's just how things are, or how things should be. And we tend to judge others who don't behave in the same way or don't engage in the same behaviors or same lifestyle or same religion or whatever, and we judge them and we think that they're wrong, thinking that what we know and that what we do is right because it seems so like biological and just natural to us. But really all of this stuff is learned. It's all learned as we get older, and we've just been practicing it or believing it for so long that it seems normal or like we were born with it. But there are so many things that we learn that we don't realize we learn. For example, our distance away from each other when we're talking to each other, when we're standing next to each other. Here in America, it's very normal for us to have kind of a bigger bubble around us. It's uncomfortable to be very close to strangers, particularly when you're meeting someone. It's not normal for them to be like right up here close to your face, whereas in other cultures it is. It's normal to be closer to each other when you're talking or when you've met or when you're spending time together. Whereas here, if someone was really close to you, it seems like uncomfortable, it might seem rude, it might seem like this person has like no boundaries or they're like invading on my space. Whereas in other cultures, it might be rude for us to back up and to have all of this space between us, because it might mean like, oh, I don't like you, or I don't want you close to me, or it's like a pushing away type thing. And so that's just one thing that it's just natural for us to keep a certain distance from people, and we just do it automatically. It's not something that we think about or that we talk about. It's just kind of like something that we do. Another example would be like eye contact. Like, it's normal for you to hold eye contact for a certain amount of time, depending on where you are, what culture you're a part of. Same with like handshake, a certain style of handshake or the pressure, like whether you have a firm or a weak handshake, people infer certain things from you depending on your culture. So there's all these things that we kind of it seems like we do just naturally, but it's actually really learned. And so when you come in contact with somebody that behaves differently or that does something differently, it can be perceived as rude or we just basically make all these assumptions based on our own culture and what we've learned, and we have to understand that it's not always the case. Something that means something in our culture might mean something different in another culture. And so you can't always use your own perspective or culture to kind of judge or analyze a certain situation or person. We have to be willing to kind of put ourselves in other people's shoes and ask ourselves why they're behaving a certain way or why they're acting a certain way. We have to be open-minded to the fact that people do things differently, and that doesn't make them less than or more than us. It's just different. It's just culture, and it's just different. But these kinds of things can really like divide us. Like, we don't realize that they can make us see each other differently than what's really happening, or we might make like certain assumptions about people or about certain situations because they're not what we're used to, and we kind of sit here and say, well, how do they not know this, or why don't they know that, or don't they know this, or whatever. And it's like, no, because we were taught that. We don't realize that we were taught that, but we were taught that by observing the people around us, our families, our friends, and maybe we were actually really taught these things, like certain things are rude, like certain things are like said and they're taught to us that way, but then there's other things that are taught to us just kind of by observing the people that we're around and learning kind of what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, what behaviors and actions and words bring more love and affection into our life around with the people that are around us versus what doesn't. And so these things are learned in all sorts of ways. It doesn't always necessarily have to be something that was said or specifically told to you. Sometimes we just kind of like infer these things from the surroundings that we're in. And this is really kind of culture is kind of like a lifelong thing. It's something that you're always learning and always growing in and adapting to, because all our lives we're going to come into contact with people that do things differently than us, and it's going to change our perspective and the way that we think about ourselves and the world and people. And so we kind of just are always learning things throughout our life based on our environment and who we're with and what we're around, what kind of experiences we're having. And something that she said that I definitely believe in, but I didn't really have the words for, and that is that diversity is the only norm. you know, when you really think about it, like, we are all different. We are all weird. We all have our quirks. We all have these things. And so there is no normal, you know, like, diversity is the only normal. And so we kind of have to be willing to put ourselves in the shoes of somebody else, be willing to understand somebody else's perspective, be open to asking questions or being curious. And that's a big thing that I try to do, is to just be more curious versus judgmental and think, well, why does this person do that? Why did that person say that or do that thing? Or what could they possibly have been thinking, or like, what was their thought process behind what they did or what they said? And I think this is very important for not only understanding other people and the world that we live in, but also understanding ourselves and why we do things and what motivates us to do certain things or say different things, or it can help us examine our own beliefs and things that we do and how we view the world that might not necessarily be, it might just be something that's taught and not something that we actually want to do, like, when you really think about it. Because, like, there's certain behaviors that I feel like sometimes we do just out of habit or just because it's the norm, but when you really think about it, it's like, well, that's not really something that I want to participate or that I want to be in. And so when you become more mindful of these things and these things that we do that we're taught that might not actually be like the reality, or might not be right, or might not be the way that we actually really want to behave, might not be representative of the person that we really are, that we want to be. And so I think it's important to have these ideas and think about them, apply them to ourselves in our own lives. And so, I mean, that's pretty much it. I just thought it was kind of a really cool conversation that we had in that class, and I'm really excited to learn more and to be a part of this. And I definitely think I was put in this class for a reason. It fit perfectly in my schedule. It was the only class that fit perfectly in my schedule with my other ones, and so I took it because it sounded kind of interesting, but I knew that it was going to be a little bit challenging. But I think I'm going to learn a lot and gain a lot from this class. So I have another class I have to go to, and I will talk to you guys all later. Bye.